Welcome to News Mongolia, where we bring you the latest stories and updates from across the nation and beyond. I'm Batsirin Namshar. On the News Mongolia today, campaigning for the 2024 parliamentary elections of the State Great Khural has officially started. Cyclist Ochirvaani to return home after fulfilling a lifelong dream. Documents on the cooperation between Mongolia and Laos were signed. For the news, stay tuned. The campaign for the 2024 elections for the Parliament of Mongolia officially started on Monday. The General Election Commission of Mongolia assessed the candidates on June 10th. A total of 1,336 candidates from 19 parties, 2 coalitions, and several independents are participating in this year's State Great Khural elections.
According to the law on elections, the campaign for the 2024 elections for the Parliament of Mongolia began on June 10th, the day the candidates' identity cards were issued. The election campaign will last 17 days, ending on June 26th. A total of 19 parties, 2 coalitions, and 42 independents are participating in the State Great Khural elections. Of the total number of candidates, 966 are running in the 13 constituencies and 370 are on party lists. Notably, 39% of all the candidates are women.
Of course, elections are highly competitive. Beyond that, we aim to respect the voters who exercise their right to vote, ensure correct information, and organize activities focused on voter education. According to the law on political parties, approved last year, political parties and coalitions are responsible for disseminating information to educate citizens about politics and the election process.
A total of 2,238,000 citizens can cast their vote in the upcoming elections. The constituency with the largest number of voters is the Bainzurg district of Ulaanbaatar, or constituency number 8, which has 275,000 eligible voters. The second and seventh constituencies each include the largest number of provinces, with 4 provinces each. Starting on June 10th, the Independent Authority Against Corruption has begun publicly uploading the candidates' income declarations, as well as the Mongolian National Audit Office's election programs and conclusions on its social media platforms.
1 year ago, Ochirvaani embarked on a bicycle journey from Mongolia to Old Trafford Stadium in Manchester, England, driven by his dream of watching his favorite team's match and meeting his soccer idol player. Having fulfilled his dream, Ochirvaani returned to Mongolia on Tuesday, June 11, 2024.
After cycling about 14,000 kilometers from Ulaanbaatar city to Manchester, England, Ochirvaani fulfilled his dream. He is a huge Manchester United soccer club and Wayne Rooney fan. Ochirvaani left Sukhbatar Square on his bicycle on May 5, 2023 to meet his favorite team. Exactly 1 year later, he shook hands with his favorite player and inspiration, Wayne Rooney, at Old Trafford.
This journey wasn't easy for me. However, I'm thrilled to have achieved my goal despite facing numerous challenges to fulfill my dream. The final 300 kilometers from London to Manchester felt incredibly distant. As I approached my destination, my psychological state became increasingly unstable. With only 30 kilometers left, my excitement was palpable, almost unbelievable.
Ochirvaani was born on March 9, 1997, in Bainzogtsum of Tu province. He had been interested in football since he was 13 years old, and 2 years later, he set his sights on becoming a professional athlete. His dream of playing at Old Trafford wearing the red Manchester United shirt made him known to the world.
Wayne Rooney is my idol. I draw lots of inspiration from him, especially his fighting spirit on the soccer field, where he gives his all to secure victory. During this trip, I embodied his warrior-like personality, and meeting my role model was the highlight of my journey. The main goal of my trip is to inspire young people and children through my dreams. I believe everyone can achieve their dreams with persistence and diligence. The key is to stay true to yourself and keep believing in your dreams until the right time comes. I hope to encourage children and young people to pursue their dreams wholeheartedly.
Ochirvaani traveled by car from Genghis Khan International Airport until the highway ended. From there, starting at 10 a.m., he rode his bicycle from the Nisikh roundabout to Sukhbatar Square. He had called for other cyclists to join him on this route, and many cyclists joined him to ride together to Sukhbatar Square. In sharing his thoughts, he said, "I hope our city leaders see how many people in Ulaanbaatar city ride bicycles. It was time to pay attention to the safety of cyclists and to properly manage traffic. Bicycles offer many advantages, such as being environmentally friendly and beneficial for health."
You're watching News Mongolia. Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs. On the invitation of the President of Mongolia, Khurral, the President of the Lao People's Democratic Republic, Tongloun Sisoulith, is on a state visit to Mongolia on the 11th to 12th of this month. During the state visit of the President of Mongolia, Khurral, to the Republic of Laos in November last year, the parties signed 3 intergovernmental agreements in the areas of air transport, veterinary hospital, animal and plant protection, natural resources and tourism. 4 interorganizational documents were signed in the field of environmental protection and cultural cooperation. During the state visit of the President of the Republic of Laos, documents were signed as part of the implementation of the above-mentioned intergovernmental agreements, as well as the further development of relations and cooperation. Today, a Mongolian-Lao business roundtable meeting was held at the Mongolian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. A business and trade delegation led by Minister of Industry and Trade Malaitin Kamasit took part in a bilateral meeting organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia and the Mongolian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The event was attended by more than 30 representatives of 9 companies in the energy, oil, transport, logistics, digitalization, trade and food production sectors from Laos, as well as the leadership of the Lao Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Although the two countries have a long historical relationship and long traditional cooperation since the transition to a free economy in the 1990s, economic and trade turnover between the two countries has been very low. During the meeting, representatives of both sides expressed the need to restore it and increase trade turnover. Yesterday, in a special hall of the new branch of the National Library of Mongolia, the opening of the book The Secret History of the Mongols for the Visually Impaired took place. The book was published with the support of the Ministry of Culture under the auspices of the Genghis Khan Institute of Heritage and Culture under the ministry. The Mongolian National Association of the Blind and the Braille and Audiobook Center also collaborated. The Secret History of the Mongols is a unique source of history and literature, reflecting the characteristics of the Mongolian state, politics, law enforcement, religion, culture, and spirituality. It was published 18 years ago, in 2006, by the Mongolian National Association of the Blind. This has become an important development for people with visual impairments to explore and learn about their history and culture, but is currently not sufficient to meet the needs of all readers. According to a 2022 study by the National Statistics Office of Mongolia, there are 12,696 citizens with visual impairments. Of these, more than 9,000 people live in the provinces and remote areas. Therefore, to increase the availability of books for visually impaired citizens, The Secret History of the Mongols was launched, containing publications in Cyrillic and Braille, as well as in audiobook format. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Now let's take a look at international news from our partner agencies. An analyst for the International Crisis Group said Tuesday the UN Security Council's vote approving resolution on a Gaza ceasefire was an important vote, but it's a symbolic one aimed at ending the 8-month war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza.
The U.S.-sponsored resolution welcomes a ceasefire proposal announced by President Joe Biden that the United States says Israel has accepted. It calls on the militant Palestinian group Hamas to accept the three-phase plan. The resolution, which was approved with 14 of the 15 Security Council members voting in favor and Russia abstaining, calls on Israel and Hamas to fully implement its terms without delay and without condition.
Those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S/2024/448, please raise their hand. Those against? Abstentions? The results of the voting is as follows: 14 votes in favor, 0 votes against, 1 abstention. The draft resolution has been adopted as Resolution 2735.
This is an important vote, but it is a symbolic one. I think what's important when we're talking about yesterday's resolution is to not overplay its significance on the ground, right? While it is fantastic that you had a broad swath of the international community who were in agreement pushing for a permanent ceasefire, at the end of the day, Israel still has its ground incursion in Rafah. You still see the civilians of Gaza who are suffering.
The resolution, which was approved with 14 of the 15 Security Council members voting in favor and Russia abstaining, calls on Israel and Hamas to fully implement its terms without delay and without condition.
Russia noted in their statement yesterday that one of their issues was, in fact, that you've seen a lot of differences in open source reporting. You have what the Biden administration has said very clearly about the 3 different phases of the deal, which they've laid out. In the resolution, you had laid out a number of terms that would come with phase 1. They also, I think, crucially laid out that even if you don't come to an agreement of phase 1 within 6 weeks, a ceasefire would still hold. You have phase 2 of the deal, which they have laid out as, a real permanent end to hostilities, and then a phase 3, which would go into this kind of post-war reconstruction mode. I think that many of us are hoping that we will end up reaching a permanent and sustainable, lasting ceasefire. We will have Hamas, we will have Israel, and all the parties involved come to agreement on this front. Now, if we don't have this happen, there are a lot of concerns that the situation can continue to escalate. As bad as we see things right now, if you see further escalations on the Israel-Lebanon border, for example, there are so many trigger points in the region which could lead to this conflict becoming even worse than it is now. So I think that's why there's such an impetus and there's such a pressure in reaching towards a solution to this conflict.
Whether Israel and Hamas agree to go forward with the plan remains in question, but the resolution's strong support in the UN's most powerful body puts added pressure on both parties to approve the proposal.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Goodbye.